Hey, this is our Reverend Bill, and tonight I'm going to kind of do a review of Chosen 2. Unfortunately, I was going to do this the other night with Sister Megan. She was here, and she was going to do it with me, and we had some issues, and then she had to leave. So we did not get a chance to do it. Well, actually, we did. We didn't have a chance to do it right. So unfortunately, we had to leave that. So, but she'll be back to do another one. I'll have to do this one solo. So we'll have to slum it. It was just me. So, but anyway, I am. It's really weird to review these things because for the most part, as I mentioned before, well, the main story is the Bible. I mean, that's the whole history here. There's an awful lot of padding. I mean, I think I mentioned this like 42 and counting. I think it was 42 when I checked it. I think it still is 42. I believe they're still actively making them, but I don't think they're actively making them day to day. I think they're probably doing them and then stopping and then picking it up later on. I'll have to find out. But since I just started, I didn't really get too concerned with when they're going to be continuing them. But I'll look into that. So I've done 6 episodes. Number one, I do think that the spirit of it so far is fine. I know it doesn't follow the Bible, and and I understand why it doesn't, because the Bible really is not a lot of material. I mean, when all's said and done, you got 4 Gospels. They talk about the life of Jesus, and I think the longest is Matthew, which is 28. So 42-hour miniseries, or whatever you want to call it. Off that kind of, you're running thin if you don't pad it a little bit. They do. And so far, I've no major issues with the padding per se. I'll get into a couple of things now. I might as well. Just because it's more symbolic with what I just said, I'm going to go with one of my later points first. Jesus, kind of get me onto a tangent though. I'll start with the first point first, then I'll come back to this. One of the things that confused me is the fact that Peter is married to Eden. I guess that's his wife's name, which is fine. I would imagine he probably was married, and maybe she was to Eden. That's fine. I know some apostles were married, and I don't believe really that was an issue at all. I, for one, would talk about my personal opinion. I don't see why priests can't marry. I think it's a wholesome, healthy thing for priests to marry, but that's another subject. While we're on it, priests, for the most part, are not allowed to marry because they don't want their children to inherit their parish. So it's kind of a money grab by the Catholic Church. Enough of that. So anyway, so they're going to be getting married, and they have no money, and she's okay with that when he comes home and says, "Hey, guess what? I'm not going to be a fisherman anymore. There's a strange man here, and he wants me to follow him." Now, again, when I'm discussing this, I'm discussing this from 2 vantage points. I'm discussing this as a reverend minister of Jesus Christ, and I'm also discussing this as a movie critic because I'm very much into movies most of my life. So, when I say a stranger, I'm not just, disrespecting the Lord Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior, in any way, shape, or form. I'm talking about this as a movie man, not as a Christian. So, obviously she would be saying, well, we're just getting ahead of ourselves here. And now suddenly this man comes in and you want to just run off with him. And, we got a wedding planned. And, but no, she was on board. She was like, yeah, go for it. Go. I don't know if that happened. If it didn't happen. I mean, I am quite sure that little sub story, whatever it was, maybe it was that, maybe it wasn't that, maybe it was a whole lot of other things. But I'm just saying that it doesn't play into the major story. I'm sure whatever it was is irrelevant over the major story. And the major story is Peter was asked to join Jesus. So I don't really think anyone knows what happened when Peter talked to Eden and said he was going to follow Jesus. But they made it a big thing, whatever. The other thing that I was going to mention is this is a tricky subject. And I don't know why it's a tricky subject. It's a tricky subject because I guess society nowadays makes it one. But this whole DEI nonsense, there was no DEI when I was in growing up. There was a they had something called um, affirmative action, which is similar to DEI. And I don't know. I'm just really tired of this whole thing. But the point I'm trying to get to is there was an awful lot of Black people in Israel during the show I was watching the other night of that. And I happen to know that Cairo, which is Egypt, which is probably one of the closest places that are highly popular with Black people, is about 1,000 miles away. And I happen to know that Jesus was supposedly, when he was a baby, he was hidden in Egypt, supposedly to hide from Herod's men. And it's kind of a touchy point with a lot of Christians, and the point that there are a lot of claims, and even in the show, they claim that Jesus grew up and had a lot of dealings with Egyptians and grew up in Egypt and all that kind of stuff. There's no credible evidence to this whatsoever. There are some rumors that when he was an infant, they went to Egypt with him till things cooled off, but that was just to hide him. There was no evidence he ever lived there for any point in time, that he ever spoke Egyptian, that he ever had any family or friends in Egypt. I only bring that up because in the show last night, he ran into, well, he didn't, I guess he did. Essentially, during the episodes I was watching, he was beginning to perform miracles and get revealed. And there was an African woman that saw it, and she went and got one of her friends, and he was crippled. And this story is well known. I think this is actually right out of I think it's Matthew where they put him in. Might be Luke though, but I think it's Matthew where they put him to the ceiling. But anyway, they put him to the ceiling, and he gets cured, of course, and he could walk. The cripple could walk again. The reason I even bring this up is because they made a point of in the show saying that Jesus grew up in Egypt, and he could speak Egypt, and he had a lot of Egyptian culture, and I mean, it's just there was a lot of African people in the episode, and that's fine. But again, you're talking about a time there's no traffic. They would have had to done it across the desert in 1,000 miles of heat with what you could carry, maybe a donkey or a camel. It just seems like an awful trek to do on foot, and to have all these people doing it. I don't know. Maybe they did. I don't know. I mean, it just seems. I would just think that having a few people doing it, but I thought having Israel full of all these people that cross this barren area on foot over the scorching sun of 1,000 miles. I don't know. Might be a little much for all these people, but I don't know. See, the problem is when you mention this stuff. They got you because they'll say, "Oh my gosh, you're pointing out." The just matter is, they're only if you weren't white, you wouldn't point it out. But I mean, if you were any other color, you wouldn't have to point it out. I mean, if they had a show about Shaka Zulu in Africa, and they did a thing of it, and you went there. And the 1800s, and there was a guy a white guy with an Irish brogue who was running the Zulu tribe. You'd go, wait a minute, what's Seamus doing there running the Zulu tribe? You wouldn't kind of going, well, who cares? You'd say, no, wait a minute, that's ridiculous. Yeah, having a leprechaun running the Zulu tribe, that's ridiculous. But if you're white, you can't say anything. It's ridiculous. No, you kind of get away with it, but it's I don't know. It's if you're white, you can't say anything, no matter how ridiculous it is. I don't know, just me, but whatever. But anyway, Jesus may or may not have reached Egypt, but just for the clarity and the action, the preciseness, the precision, he probably did not live there. He probably did not speak Egyptian. He probably did not learn their culture. He may have spent a very short period of time there, hiding from Herod and his men. In which case, he probably returned to Jerusalem with family and friends where he was safe. So hopefully that is that. One of the concerns that I do have, by the way, with this show is um, they seem to be making some of the apostles' statements mostly on the bad side. They seem to make Matthew almost like a Rain Man from, Dustin Hoffman in Rain Man from, I guess, what's 1988 with Tom Cruise? I think it was 88, might be 87, but I'm going to go with 88 with that one. Yeah, we'll go with 88 on that one. And then, and now they're trying to turn Peter Simon into like some kind of I don't know, some kind of a sex subject for women. He's walking around with these big arms with the veins popping up. He must be like lifting weights in between filming. Getting those veins bulging. But I can't complain. Mary Magdalene is pretty easy on the eyes too, so I'm not going to complain. But yeah, they're really doing a job on Matthew. I mean, he just walking around like Rain Man the whole time. It's just I don't know what his problem is, but I mean, I do enjoy Matthew, the real Matthew. I do enjoy his writing, so I'm just going to let the movie get away with the slandering of him. But the rest of them, I do like it for the most part. Yeah, but they do have a part where that black woman does actually walk over to Jesus, and she says something to him in Egyptian, and he talks to her. She goes, "Oh, you know what my culture?" And he's like, "Yeah, I grew up with you. Like you grew up with, Oh, I grew up there. Yeah, I don't think so. What else do I think about it? I think it's really good for children so far. I've seen 6 episodes, and it kind of reminds me about early religion in that you don't want to get too in depth with details, but with children you just want to get the message across. And I think it's getting the message across. You don't want to get too deep into the theological details. You just want to keep it light and make sure they kind of get the message. And I think that does it. And it does it kind of humorously. While some of the events might be completely made up, it does it in the same spirit I think that Jesus meant. He's a very kind, I think the actor's doing a very good job. He's doing a very kind job. I think all the apostles are doing a relatively good job. They kind of are beating the things to death a little bit, but I think, again, if it's for children, I think that's okay. The Apostle Thomas, and I forget why, but something happens, and Thomas doubts it, and Jesus kind of gives him a precursor of being doubting Thomas. And as adults that know the Bible, we know that's going to come into play after the crucifixion. But he's probably getting the children used to the fact that yes, Thomas is someone who has a problem with credibility. He needs to see things and touch things and see things. So yeah, I mean, as a father, I would rate this higher than as a Christian minister. I would give this high marks if I was raising children. If you're a well-informed adult, you could watch it or not watch it. If you're not really strong in your knowledge of religion, you might want to watch it. Most things are accurate. But if you really don't know your religion, I wouldn't use this as a girder to hold up your faith. But if you're new to it, or you just want to get an idea of what it is, or you know your religion very well and you just want to be entertained, sure. I mean, I'm not watching it. I'm sure I'm not learning anything from it, but it's interesting. like that Egypt question, I mean, it's nice to get a refresher. I wanted to check things out, make sure that my facts aren't wrong. So it's good for that. But anyway, that's it for tonight. So I will talk to you guys later. If you like this, please like, share, and subscribe. If you have any ideas, let me know what you want to see or hear or share, whatever. Apart from that, hey, rock and roll. It's almost summer. Talk to you later. Bye bye now.